It's Bugatti's first creation from their new Programme Solitaire, a one-off coach-built hypercar that feels less like a production model and more like a private commission turned into a rolling piece of art. This isn't a run-of-the-mill special edition. It's meant to be singular, theatrical, and utterly personal. From the moment you see it, the design hits you. It's long and low, with fluid surfaces that look almost sculpted by wind itself. Bugatti didn't go loud for loud's sake. The Brouillard reads as elegant and muscular at once, with smooth flanks, a fastback-like rear, and details that reward a slow second glance. The proportions are classic Bugatti. Wide, confident, built to look like it's moving even when it's standing still. But the execution is more refined, more artisanal. You can tell the team leaned into coach-building cues. Every panel, every seam feels deliberate, like it's been curated for someone who treats cars the way others treat fine watches. Underneath that beautiful body is a dramatic piece of engineering theater. The Brouillard carries the W16 in one of its most powerful tune-ups yet. We're talking around 1,578 horsepower, the kind of number that makes you grin without even wanting to test it in anger. For Bugatti fans, this is especially poignant because the Brouillard feels like a celebration of the W16's legacy, the last hurrah in a line of engines that have defined modern Bugatti madness. It's loud in stat sheet terms, but the way the car delivers that power is pure sophistication. Refined shove, immediate response, and that special Bugatti cadence of speed wrapped in luxury. Now, before anyone asks, this isn't a raw track toy. Bugatti made sure the Brouillard is as much about living with beauty as it is about blistering pace. The chassis tech is familiar to the Chiron family, carbon fiber structure, obsessive aero detailing, but the setup here is honed for a grander, more theatrical presence. It's the kind of car you'd show off on a seaside drive or a private hill climb, not something you'd chase lap times with at your local track day. The focus is on drama, comfort, and that feeling of having every detail turned up to 11. Step inside, and the Brouillard keeps telling its horse-inspired story. Bugatti leaned into Ettore Bugatti's love of equestrian themes with real gusto. There are handcrafted touches, tartan and saddle-like upholstery, and even a tiny glass sculpture of Ettore's favorite horse embedded into the gear selector. It's the kind of detail you either adore or find baffling, but for collectors it's pure candy. Things you'd only notice if you were really looking, and things that make owning the car feel like being part of a secret club. The green plaid interior that's been shown is bold, yes, but it's also impeccably finished, and everything reads as handcrafted rather than factory-fitted. On the subject of features people tend to ask about, this is not an off-road vehicle in any conventional sense, but the Brouillard does bring an interesting mix of composure and confidence. Bugatti's chassis and suspension tech mean it rides and handles with poise, and while it's not meant to tackle dirt trails like an SUV, it won't flinch at a country lane approach or a gravel drive outside a manor. Think of it as a hyper-luxury grand tour, with the ability to make the ordinary feel cinematic, rather than as something you'd use for a rugged adventure. Pricing for a one-off like this is more theater than math. Bugatti hasn't published a definitive number. They rarely do for unique commissions, but industry estimates put the price well into the multiple millions. This is the sort of car that collectors buy because it's rare, because it's bespoke, and because it's a statement piece. Reports and industry whispers have suggested figures that comfortably clear the tens of millions for something truly one of one with that level of personalization. If you're calculating value, remember you're paying for exclusivity, bespoke craftsmanship, and the story behind the car as much as you are for metal and rubber. So how does Brouillard sit next to Bugatti's past icons? It's both a continuation and a departure. Compared to the Chiron family or La Voiture Noire, the Brouillard feels more coach-built, more intimate, less about absolute production scale and more about artistry. It carries the lineage of Bugatti's hypercar tradition, the same push for absurd performance and outrageously high standards. But it channels that energy into a one-off hyper coupe instead of a limited run model. In short, it's got the heart of the modern Bugatti, but with the soul of a bespoke coach builder. One of the bigger picture things to note is that the Brouillard also signals a shift in how Bugatti wants to present itself. The Programme Solitaire isn't a mass market play, it's the brand saying, we'll build only a couple of these bespoke works a year, which keeps the mystique alive and gives wealthy clients a chance to co-create. That model fits with what we're seeing across the ultra-luxury auto world. A return to ultra-personalized craftsmanship and limited-run exclusivity. For enthusiasts who grew up on the Veyron and Chiron myths, Brouillard reads like a carefully curated closing chapter and an exciting preview of how Bugatti will keep surprising collectors. Driving impressions? Well, from the sound bites and the few media drives and premieres, the Brouillard is described as composed, surprisingly comfortable for long stints, and theatrically fast when asked to be. That matches the whole idea of a Bugatti, not aggressive in the way a supercar can be, but quietly devastating when you open it up. And when you combine that with the one-off craftsmanship inside, it becomes less about setting lap records and more about owning an objet d'art that happens to do 0 to 60 absurdly fast. If you're a collector, the Brouillard probably looks like a can't miss. If you're a fan, it's a fascinating chapter in Bugatti's story, an example of how the brand balances insane performance with handmade luxury and bespoke storytelling. For the rest of us, it's a reminder that the golden age of coach-built hypercars is very much alive, and that companies like Bugatti are willing to push the idea of what a car can be. Part machine, part museum piece, part personal myth. So, what would you do if you had access to a Brouillard? Would you keep it in climate-controlled solitude as a rolling masterpiece? Or would you actually drive it until the tires looked used and the leather showed stories? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear whether you treat this as untouchable art or the most beautiful weekend hammer you've ever owned. And if you're curious, I can dig into the little bespoke options Bugatti offers through Programme Solitaire and show you the details that make these one-offs feel like commissioned artworks rather than cars.